The morning sun streamed through the stained glass windows of St. Matthew's Cathedral, casting rainbow patterns across the white roses that adorned every pew. It should have been the happiest day of my life. I was marrying Marcus, the love of my life, surrounded by 300 guests in one of the most beautiful churches in the city. My dress, a custom varawang that had taken 8 months to create, fit perfectly and I felt like a princess from a fairy tale. But as I walked down the aisle, arm in arm with my father, I could feel the tension radiating from my family like heat from a furnace. My mother sat rigid in the front pew, her face a mask of barely controlled disapproval. My sister Jennifer refused to make eye contact, staring instead at her hands folded primly in her lap. My brother Thomas looked like he'd rather be anywhere else in the world. They'd made their feelings about this wedding crystal clear over the past year. Not about Marcus, they actually liked Marcus quite a bit. He was everything they thought I should want in a husband. Successful, well-connected, from a good family. The problem was me. In their eyes, I didn't deserve him. "You're making a mistake, Catherine," my mother had said just that morning as I was getting ready. "That poor man has no idea what he's getting himself into." "Marcus loves me, Mom," I'd replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just as I am." "Love fades," she'd snapped back. "When he realizes what you really are, what you've been hiding from him, he'll leave you just like everyone else." What I'd been hiding. If only she knew the truth about what I'd actually been concealing from them for the past 3 years. Now, as Pastor Williams began the ceremony with the traditional words about love and commitment, I tried to push those thoughts away and focus on Marcus. He looked incredibly handsome in his black tuxedo, his dark hair perfectly styled, his brown eyes warm with love as he gazed at me. We'd written our own vows, and I could see him mentally rehearsing the words he'd prepared to share with me. "Dearly beloved," Pastor Williams intoned, his voice carrying clearly through the cathedral's excellent acoustics. "We are gathered here today to witness the union of Catherine Elizabeth Morrison and Marcus Daniel Richardson in holy matrimony. Marriage is a sacred bond, entered into with joy and celebrated with family and friends." I squeezed Marcus's hands, drawing strength from his steady presence. We'd been together for 4 years, engaged for 1, and despite my family's constant negativity, I'd never been more certain of anything in my life. Marcus saw me, really saw me, in a way that no one else ever had. "If anyone here has just cause why these two should not be joined in marriage," Pastor Williams continued, "let them speak now or forever hold their peace." It was supposed to be a formality, a tradition that dated back centuries but rarely resulted in actual objections. In the movies, this was when former lovers burst through the doors or family secrets were revealed. In real life, people usually just sat in respectful silence. But not today. My mother rose slowly from her seat in the front pew, her black dress, she'd chosen to wear black to my wedding, rustling in the sudden silence. My father stood beside her, his face grim with determination. "We object," my mother announced, her voice carrying clearly through the cathedral. 300 guests turned to stare, their shocked murmurs creating a buzz of whispered conversations. Pastor Williams looked stunned. In 30 years of performing wedding ceremonies, he'd clearly never had anyone actually take him up on that particular invitation. "On what grounds?" he asked, his voice uncertain. My mother lifted her chin defiantly. "She doesn't deserve happiness. Our daughter has spent her entire life lying, manipulating, and taking advantage of people's kindness. She's deceived this poor man about who she really is, and we cannot stand by and watch her ruin his life the way she's ruined everything else she's touched." The silence in the cathedral was deafening. I could hear the sound of my own heartbeat, could feel the stares of hundreds of people boring into me. Some of Marcus's family members looked confused and uncomfortable. My own extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, looked embarrassed but not entirely surprised. Marcus's hand tightened around mine, and I could feel his steady strength flowing into me. He turned to look at my parents, his expression calm but firm. "With all due respect, Mr. and Mrs. Morrison," he said, his voice carrying clearly in the hushed cathedral, "I know exactly who Catherine is. I've known her for 4 years and I love every part of her." "You don't know what she's capable of," my father said, shaking his head sadly. "The lies she's told, the people she's hurt. We've tried to protect you from the truth, but we can't let this charade continue." I felt something break inside me, not my heart but something else. The last vestige of hope that my family might someday accept me, might someday see me as worthy of their love and respect. I turned to Pastor Williams and smiled, my voice surprisingly steady. Please continue with the ceremony. Catherine, my mother called out, desperation creeping into her voice. Don't do this. Don't trap this good man in your web of lies. I finally turned to face my parents, and for the first time in my adult life, I felt completely at peace with who I was and what I'd accomplished. The only thing I've been hiding, I said clearly, my voice carrying to every corner of the cathedral, is how successful I've become despite everything you've done to undermine me. My mother's face flushed red. Success? You work in some little nonprofit. You can barely pay your rent. Actually, Marcus said, stepping slightly forward, Catherine is the founder and CEO of Harmony Solutions, the humanitarian technology company that was just featured on the cover of Forbes as one of the fastest-growing social enterprises in the country. The murmur that rippled through the congregation was audible this time. I saw several guests pulling out their phones, probably to verify what Marcus had just said. She's also, Marcus continued with obvious pride, been named to the UN's Advisory Council on Technology for Global Development, and her company's water purification systems have provided clean drinking water to over 2 million people in developing countries. My mother's mouth fell open. That's impossible. You're making that up. The Forbes article came out last week, I said quietly. You can look it up. The UN appointment was announced 3 months ago. And yesterday we signed a contract with the World Health Organization that will expand our water systems to 10 more countries. You're lying, my sister Jennifer said from her seat, but her voice lacked conviction. Marcus pulled out his phone and held it up. Forbes website. Right here. Catherine Morrison, the 32-year-old CEO revolutionizing humanitarian technology. The cathedral erupted in whispered conversations as guests began pulling out their own phones to verify the information. I could see the shock and confusion on my family's faces as they realized that everything they thought they knew about my life was wrong. Why didn't you tell us? My father asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Because every time I tried to share anything positive about my work, you dismissed it, I replied. Every achievement was minimized. Every success was attributed to luck or someone else's help. You made it very clear that you didn't think I was capable of anything significant. Pastor Williams cleared his throat diplomatically. Perhaps we could continue with the ceremony and address family matters afterward? Yes, I said firmly. Let's continue. My parents slowly sat back down, looking shell-shocked. The rest of the ceremony proceeded beautifully, though I could feel the undercurrent of whispered conversations and shocked murmurs throughout the cathedral. When Marcus and I exchanged vows, his words brought tears to my eyes. Catherine, you are the strongest, most compassionate, most brilliant woman I've ever known. You've built something beautiful in this world, and I'm honored to be part of your life. I promise to support your dreams, celebrate your successes, and love you exactly as you are. My own vows felt especially meaningful given the events of the past few minutes. Marcus, you saw my worth when my own family couldn't. You believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. I promised to build a life with you based on honesty, respect, and unconditional love. When Pastor Williams pronounced us husband and wife, the cathedral erupted in genuine applause and cheers. Marcus kissed me with such tenderness that I forgot all about my family's dramatic objection and lost myself in the joy of the moment. The reception was held at the Grand Ballroom of the Riverside Hotel, one of the most prestigious venues in the city. Marcus and I had spared no expense. After all, between his successful law practice and my company's recent success, we could afford to celebrate in style. As guests began arriving at the cocktail hour, I noticed something interesting happening. People were clustering around their phones, clearly researching the information that had come out during the ceremony. The Forbes article was being shared and discussed, and I could see the shift in how people were looking at me. My Aunt Patricia, who had always treated me with polite but distant courtesy, approached me during the cocktail hour. Catherine dear, she said, her voice warm in a way I'd never heard before. I had no idea about your company. I just read the Forbes article and I'm absolutely amazed. 2 million people with clean water? That's incredible. Thank you, Aunt Patricia. It's been challenging work but incredibly rewarding. The article mentions that you started the company with no outside funding. How did you manage that? I smiled, remembering those early days when I'd worked 18-hour days and lived on ramen noodles to keep the company afloat. I had a small inheritance from Grandpa Morrison, about $50,000. I used that as seed money and reinvested every penny of profit back into the company for the first 3 years. Marcus's family had been incredibly warm to me from the beginning, but now they seemed to be looking at me with new respect and admiration. His mother, Diana Richardson, pulled me aside before dinner. "Catherine, I want you to know how proud we are to welcome you into our family," she said, tears in her eyes. "What you've accomplished is extraordinary, but more than that, the way you've handled your parents' behavior today shows incredible grace and maturity." "Thank you, Diana. That means more to me than you know. I hope you don't mind me asking, but why didn't your parents know about your success? It seems like such a wonderful thing to share with family." I hesitated, not wanting to speak badly of my parents, but also wanting to be honest. They've never really believed in my capabilities. Every time I tried to share professional good news, it was dismissed or minimized. Eventually I stopped trying. Diana shook her head sadly. "Their loss is our gain. You're going to fit right in with the Richardson family." Dinner was a lavish affair. We'd hired one of the city's top catering companies, and the menu featured dishes from around the world, reflecting the international focus of my work. The centerpieces were made from flowers that had been grown by cooperative farms that Harmony Solutions had helped establish in Central America. During the toasts, Marcus stood up to address our guests. "I want to thank everyone for being here to celebrate with Catherine and me," he began. "Today's ceremony had some unexpected moments, but they only reinforced something I already knew. I'm married to the most remarkable woman in the world." He turned to look at me, his love evident in his expression. "Catherine has dedicated her life to solving problems that most people wouldn't even attempt to tackle. She's brought clean water to villages that had never had it. She's created jobs in communities that desperately needed economic opportunity. She's proven that business can be a force for good in the world." The applause was thunderous, and I felt overwhelmed by the support and love from our guests. My maid of honor, Jessica, my college roommate and closest friend, gave a toast that brought down the house. "I've watched Catherine work 16-hour days, sleep on her office floor and turn down lucrative job offers because she believed in her mission. She's the most determined person I know, and she's never let setbacks or criticism stop her from pursuing her goals." Jessica glanced pointedly toward my family's table. "Some people measure success by how much money you make or how impressive your title sounds. Catherine measures success by how many lives she can improve. That's the difference between being successful and being significant." As the evening progressed, I noticed my family sitting largely alone at their assigned table. Other guests seemed to be avoiding them, and I could see my mother looking increasingly uncomfortable and isolated. The real turning point came during the cake cutting. As Marcus and I posed for photos with our 3-tiered cake, decorated with sugar flowers that represented the different countries where Harmony Solutions operated, my phone buzzed with an urgent message. I glanced at it and couldn't help but smile. "What is it?" Marcus asked. "The BBC wants to interview me next week about the WHO contract," I said. "Apparently, our water purification system is going to be featured in a documentary about innovative solutions to global poverty." Marcus beamed with pride. "Mrs. Richardson, you continue to amaze me." "Mrs. Richardson," I repeated, loving the sound of it. "I like that." My cousin David, who worked in international development, had been standing nearby and overheard our conversation. "Catherine, I have to ask, is it true that your systems can provide clean water for an entire village for less than the cost of a single well?" "That's right," I confirmed. "Traditional well drilling can cost anywhere from $15,000 to $50,000, depending on the location and depth required. Our solar-powered purification systems can serve the same population for about $8,000, and they don't require ongoing maintenance or fuel costs." David shook his head in amazement. "That's revolutionary. No wonder the UN wanted you on their advisory council." As the dancing began, I noticed my parents finally approaching Marcus and me. My mother looked pale and shaken, my father appeared deeply uncomfortable, and my sister Jennifer was crying quietly. "Catherine," my mother said, her voice trembling, "we need to talk." "I think you've said enough for one day," Marcus replied firmly, stepping slightly in front of me. "Please," my father said. "We owe you both an apology." I studied their faces, seeing genuine remorse there for the first time in years. "All right. We can talk." We moved to a quiet corner of the ballroom, away from the dancing and celebration. We had no idea, my mother began, tears streaming down her face. We thought you were struggling, that your company was just some small charity that barely stayed afloat. Why would you think that? I asked. I tried to tell you about our successes many times. We know, my father said heavily. We realize now that we weren't listening. We made assumptions based on prejudices we'd held since you were young. Jennifer finally spoke up, her voice thick with emotion. You were always so different from us. You cared about things we didn't understand, wanted to help people we'd never met. We thought you were naive, unrealistic. Helping people isn't naive, Marcus said quietly. It's the most realistic thing anyone can do. Catherine has built a sustainable business model around solving real problems. We know that now, my mother said. We've spent the past hour reading everything we could find about your company. The Forbes article, the UN announcement, the testimonials from villages you've helped. Catherine, what you've accomplished is extraordinary. I felt a complex mix of emotions: relief, sadness, anger, hope. It would have meant everything to me if you'd shown this kind of interest and support 3 years ago. Or even 3 months ago. We know, my father said. We failed you as parents. We let our own narrow view of success blind us to what you were actually achieving. The question is, I said carefully, what happens now? This isn't something that gets fixed with one conversation. My sister stepped forward. I want to learn about your company. I want to understand what you do, maybe even help if you'd let me. I looked at Jennifer with surprise. She'd always been the most dismissive of my career choices, the quickest to make cutting remarks about my do-gooder attitude. What kind of help? I asked. I work in marketing, she said. I know it's not the same as what you do, but maybe there are ways to get your story out to more people, to attract more donors or partners. Marcus and I exchanged glances. Harmony Solutions had grown rapidly, but we'd always struggled with marketing and public relations. Not because we lacked success stories, but because we were so focused on the work itself that we often forgot to share our achievements. We could use help with that, I admitted. The conversation continued for another 20 minutes, with my family asking genuine questions about my work and expressing what seemed like sincere interest in being part of my life going forward. By the end, my mother was crying openly. I'm so proud of you, she said. And I'm so ashamed of how we've treated you. We don't deserve your forgiveness, but we're hoping you might give us a chance to do better. I looked at Marcus, who squeezed my hand supportively. What do you think? I asked him. I think families are complicated, he said diplomatically. But I also think people can change if they really want to. I turned back to my parents and siblings. I'm willing to try. But things have to be different. I need to see real effort, real change in how you treat me and respect my choices. You will, my father promised. We'll do whatever it takes. The rest of the reception was transformed. My family spent the remainder of the evening actually talking to Marcus and me, asking thoughtful questions about our plans, our work, our future together. Other guests noticed the change and began including my parents and siblings in conversations again. When the evening finally ended and Marcus and I were alone in our honeymoon suite, I felt emotionally drained but cautiously optimistic. How are you feeling about everything? Marcus asked as we sat on the couch, finally able to relax. Confused, I admitted. For years I've dreamed of my family recognizing my achievements and being proud of me. Now that it's happened, I don't know how to feel about it. It's okay to be conflicted, Marcus said, pulling me close. They hurt you for a long time. It's going to take time to rebuild that trust. Do you think they really mean it? The apologies, the promises to do better. Marcus considered the question carefully. I think the shock of learning the truth about your success was genuine. Whether they can sustain the change, that remains to be seen. But Catherine, you don't have to forgive them immediately, and you don't have to trust them completely right away. I know. I spent so many years wanting their approval that I'm not sure how to handle actually having it. You don't need their approval anymore, Marcus reminded me gently. You've built something amazing without it. Their recognition is nice, but it doesn't validate what you've accomplished. Your work validates itself. 3 weeks later, as Marcus and I returned from our honeymoon in Costa Rica, where we'd visited 3 villages that used Harmony Solutions water systems, I found an unexpected package waiting for us. It was from my sister Jennifer, and it contained a comprehensive marketing proposal for Harmony Solutions. She'd clearly spent considerable time researching our work, our impact, and our potential for growth. The proposal was professional, thoughtful, and showed a deep understanding of our mission. Attached was a handwritten note. Catherine, I know I have a lot to make up for. I'd like to start by helping you share your incredible story with the world. If you're willing to give me a chance, I promise to work harder than I've ever worked at anything. I want to be part of something that matters. Love, Jennifer. Marcus read the proposal over my shoulder. This is actually really good, he said with surprise. She's identified some opportunities one hadn't even considered. I smiled, feeling something that had been broken inside me beginning to heal. Maybe people really can change. Maybe they can, Marcus agreed. The question is, are you ready to find out? I looked at the proposal again, seeing not just a business opportunity but a potential bridge back to my family. I think I am. 6 months later, Harmony Solutions had expanded into 5 new countries, largely due to the marketing and outreach strategies Jennifer had developed. My parents had become some of our most dedicated volunteers, using their business connections to introduce us to potential donors and partners. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of tension, still reminders of the years of dismissal and criticism. But we were building something new together, something based on mutual respect and shared purpose. And every time I looked at my wedding ring, I remembered that sometimes the most beautiful beginnings can come from the most challenging moments. My parents' objection at my wedding had forced a truth into the open that needed to be spoken. In trying to prevent my happiness, they'd actually cleared the way for a deeper, more authentic relationship than we'd ever had before. Marcus had been right. I didn't need their approval to validate my success. But having their genuine support made the work even more meaningful. And that, I thought, was worth the painful journey it had taken to get there.